This is Shelley Craft coming to you live on SNN Live. We're at the Growth Capital Expo, Caesars Palace, Las Vegas 2016. This is a Wall Street view with Eleazer Klein of Schulte Roth Zabel LLP. He's a partner at the firm. Ellie, welcome to SNN Live.
Thanks, Shelley, for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's good to have you. Let's get into it. You're a speaker at the conference. You're sitting on a panel. What are you doing today? What's the topic, and what are you discussing?
We're going to be talking about activism. Activism is a hot topic in the market today. We're going to have a concentration on microcap companies, since that's what this conference is mainly addressing. But activism is hot. You saw Yahoo just went through this recently with a leading activist. People are paying attention to it, and people want to know what's going on.
So as an attorney, what role do you play in this activist business?
It's a terrific question, because it's really a function of what the client needs. Sometimes we're much more limited in the sense of having a client that knows what they're doing. They've done it many times. And sometimes you need to really guide them from soup to nuts and step by step of everything. Strategy. We sometimes have to do the PR to some extent, help them with presentations. And again, at the other end of the spectrum, much more limited, just helping them make sure the legality is right and giving our impressions.
So from your 30,000-foot viewpoint, what makes a company, whether it's in the microcap or not, subject to a targeted activist, takeover?
Well, we don't get the luxury of looking from 30,000 feet, but having said that, the companies that are most ripe for activism are the ones that have some sort of issue that needs to be corrected. It could be a performance metric. It could be a governance issue, that the board isn't operating properly, doesn't have the right dynamic on it. So the companies that are performing well, particularly in relation to their peers, they're the ones that activists aren't interested in, because activism is really about identifying companies that have performance issues. Again, it could be financial, it could be governance, and trying to address it and correct it in order to improve performance of the company.
Now that's underperformance of the company, as seen through the eyes of the activist that's going to take the lead in beginning to change it, right?
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Underperformance is the key term to use, because it's a question most of the time relation to the peers of the company. How are you performing? Sometimes it's an absolute thing. You can tell any company is doing very poorly. They may not have the right leadership in place. Sometimes they don't quite get it right. They need help to get over the threshold of being able to do it and get into real performance metrics.
What is the reception to the activist from shareholders?
Shareholders in generally are happy to see an activist show up, because again, as I said, the companies that are targeted by activists are the ones that have issues. So shareholders, by and large, welcome the fact that somebody's willing to step up and do something about that. It's not universal. There are some circumstances where shareholders may be friendly and may have a position that they want to have more patience with management than the activists bring to the table. But by and large, shareholders do welcome activism.
When an activist shows up at the door, what generally is the acceptable or the accepted strategy of defense by most companies?
So that's something that's evolved over the last number of years, as activism has gone from being something that the initial response was, how can we sue these people? What can we do to make them go away? And it's evolved to recognizing that activism is an accepted class of investing, and it can serve a purpose. So you have a split among companies that recognize that, and they try to work with activists, see what they bring to the table, maybe invite them onto the board to avoid a fight. You also have activists that aren't looking. They don't even run campaigns. They are truly showing up solely to try to add value to a company. On the other hand, you still have the ones that will defend themselves and dig in and try to figure out what the pressure points are and up the ante. We prefer, obviously, the former rather than the latter, but they both exist.
Well, in the microcap market, where you might not have a high market cap and you might not have a lot of cash on hand, why would, what's the purpose? Is it to, and many of them are underperforming in this market, so there's probably a lot of targets. But why would that become something that an activist would want to be involved in?
Because, as we said earlier, they can help this company. A lot of the small, particular micro-cap companies, they don't have the resources available to them. It's not because they're evil, it's not because they want to perform or underperform. It's because they just don't have the resources, the background, the ability to get the best and the brightest always to the table. So when an activist shows up, this is what they do. They've done analysis, they have analysts, they can bring these type of metrics and expertise, and in a sense they're offering it. It's something that can be welcomed, and when it is, it can work out very well for the companies.
So you're saying that there's two sides to the story. There's the good name, there's the bad name of activism. So when companies dig in to defend against an activist, they're trying to protect their own Idaho. And on the other hand, the activists coming in, they may have good intentions or bad intentions necessarily, but doesn't the management have to appear to seem threatened?
Again, it's really a question of looking and being honest with yourself as a management. Activists don't come with anything other than trying to improve performance. That's all they're about. It's not really a good or a bad question from their perspective. They are looking at what they view as underperformance, and what they're trying to do is try to improve that performance. A company may come to a different conclusion if they think the activist agenda and plans aren't going to, in fact, improve what the company needs to do. But if they do, a company would be well served not to view it as they've traditionally had viewed it as a threat. Activists aren't coming to take over the company. They're frequently coming and saying, give us 1, give us 2 board seats so we can get in the room and try to help out and get this company to perform better.
Now, as an attorney, which side do you usually represent?
We primarily represent activists in my practice. We've done both sides, and we represent banks, we represent everyone, but for the most part, my client base is most of the large activists out there.
What happens when more than one activist goes after the same company?
It's something that you didn't see very much until very recently, but you see it. So there's different things that happen. A bunch of times they'll just join together and work together. Sometimes one will step back and lets the other one just do what they want to do. They trust that they'll get to the right result. Sometimes they'll butt heads. Doesn't happen too often, but you will see on occasion that activists come with agendas that aren't exactly the same in terms of what they're looking for, and then there could be a little tension. Stuff tends to work out nonetheless.
From start to finish, what's the duration on average of an activist campaign?
It depends, but companies that are looked at by activists, they'll start looking at these companies 9 months, sometimes even longer, before they actually will get to a result. But we've done ones, as you can imagine, much shorter than that. But for the most part, it's 6 to 9 months in advance.
What's the best website to give out to our investor audience?
We have a Shareholder Activism Center on our firm website, www.srz.com, that they can go to.
Thanks, Ellie. Ladies and gentlemen, Ellie Klein, Schulte Roth and Zabel LLP. This was a Wall Street View with a partner of the firm. I'm Shelley Craft. This is Wall Street View on SNN Live at the Growth Capital Expo at Caesars Palace, Las Vegas, 2016. Thanks for coming on, Ellie.
Thanks again for having me.
Good to have you.